What to do when your spouse or co-parent has a different parenting style. Welcome to Empowered Kids TV Village Talk. I am so excited to have you here. You're here because you know that every family has the potential to be great, and you're willing to push the boundaries of your mindset so that you can create the family of your dreams. Today, we welcome back one of our amazing coaches, Sue DeCaro. Sue, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And just for those of you that hasn't seen Sue before, be sure to go back and check out our previous episodes. But I just want to introduce Sue. Sue DeCaro is a certified parent coach and educator focused on conscious living and loving. She's a public speaker, writer, trainer, and co-founder of Building Connected Communities. Along with her extensive training, Sue was also able to take all of the experience she gained from raising her own two daughters and to transform relationships between parents and children in her coaching practice worldwide. As the founder of DeCaro Parent Coaching, a private practice that supports parents across the globe, Sue integrates education, consciousness, and coaching to help families grow and to thrive. Sue's training as a parent coach, combined with her experience with her own family, enables her to support every client with empathy and to craft tailored approaches to your specific goals. Check Sue out at decaroparentcoaching.com. All right, Sue, let's get into today's question. Today's question comes from Trisha, and Trisha writes, "My partner does not support my gentle parenting whatsoever and proceeds to tell off my 1-year-old despite me explaining to him over and over that she doesn't understand, and it's just cruel to tell her off for simply playing and exploring. This morning he told me that she'll grow into a vile bully because I don't parent her properly. He will not read any books or articles or anything, and I normally read them to him or explain what I've read, and it's still not good enough. He just thinks that I'm a bad parent for being a gentle parent. Any advice?" That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. And I first want to say that this partnering, being on separate pages, we'll call them, is something that many of us have experienced. I myself worked completely separate from my partner in raising my children. And this conscious continuum that we're on is a continuum. And many people, coaches included, have spouses that are not on the continuum at all, or are at the very end of the continuum, are living in fear. And parenting does bring up a lot of fear in us because we want to raise our child as best as we can. We want them to be, good citizens in the world. And there are a lot of things that we see out today in the media that can create that fear. So I imagine that your partner is parenting from a place of fear, from what it sounds like. I don't like to label that, but from what you're sharing, it certainly sounds like that might be where your spouse or your partner is coming from. Might I suggest, this may be a stretch, that actually you talk about the fear. Because, I'm a big believer, and this seems to be my latest phrase, there's an elephant in the room. And I think this elephant is something that can grow if we don't actually tap into it. So addressing the fear, not accusing your partner of having fear, but saying, parenting is a very fearful place to be because we want our children to be these great human beings, have a great foundation, and go out in the world and do amazing things. And we're worried about what they might be at 30 as opposed to what they are today. I mean, I have a client that is worried that when his daughter is 50, she'll live at home. And the child is 12. So, it's a natural tendency to live in the future, to project to the future of what might be. We all do it. But bringing your spouse, your partner back to this time zone by talking about fear and even sharing what fears you might have. I'm sure that there's some fears that may have come up in your own parenting that maybe you've worked through already. But sometimes when we model or share from our own heart and soul what we've experienced, they might feel more open to share as well. And then I would take a step further and talk about how important it is, as not even talking about consciousness or gentle parenting, but how important it is to stay connected in these moments, the moment that you're in. Because you're not going to bring your partner into the place you're at in consciousness and gentleness. We just can't change them from where they are. We can give them tidbits, we can lead them, and we can absolutely model the behavior we would love for them to absorb and pick up, but we can't change who they are and what they bring to the parenting. A lot of it is conditioning.
I'm totally in agreement, and I really empathize with Trisha, because I think I also had this challenge in terms of navigating, and I had this challenge several times because my view of how I wanted to parent changed over time, and each time I changed, there was a new dynamic within that parent to parent relationship, that co-parent relationship, of trying to figure out our balance together, and a lot of learning happened independently, so we weren't always on the same page. I think what I loved about what you're talking about is just get to the root of it, because what I realized for me is that there was fear, but there was fear on both sides. While I could see the other person's fear, it was very difficult to see my own fear. But my need to parent gently came first from a fear. It was a fear that I didn't want what happened in my childhood to happen to my kids. And so I think when both people are able to sit down and have that very open, honest conversation, I think when we focus first on validating the other person, so that the other person really does feel heard and seen, like, you get me, you really understand why this is a problem for me, before we start saying, well, you need to understand my point of view. I think that really just opened the space to allow parents to find a new page to be on. And it may not always be the same, but it can be one, as you said, that talks about how do we stay connected? How do we stay true to our goals? Because sometimes even talking about connection is too far a step for some parents. But if you can just take a step back and say, what do we really want for a child? Yeah, what does that look like? What kind of person do we want them to be? How do we want them to show up in the world when they're 21 and 25? And what do we need to do? Let's work backwards. What do we need to do to kind of give them that? And I think that for me really helped moving us to a page that felt more familiar rather than miles apart.
I agree completely. And I think conditioning plays a huge role in both partners, both parents coming together. So we grow up in different families of origin, and we grow up with different rules and different ways that our parents were. Some may have been gentle, some may not have been. Yeah. And so I know for me, coming together to parent my children, there were completely different, sets of conditionings that were so far apart that, as you said, when you come together in a non-attacking, we need to do it this way or that way, but in a camaraderie and a gentleness of respect and understanding. What brought you to parenting? What backpack of stuff do you have? Yes. And let me share my backpack, because we all have one. And let's unpack them together. Let's see what's in yours, and let me share what's in mine, and have fun with it. Because it's not an easy job parenting, as we've talked about in the past. But if you can at least share and talk openly from a connected space about your differences, about your conditioning, about your values, and how you can work together, it makes a huge difference.
It does, and
but in the moment, when
it's hard in the moment, Sue. It's really hard in the moment.
Right, I was just going to say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In the moment, it is very hard to see your partner coming in and doing something that looks so unconscious, and you immediately flare up. And what you want to do in those instances, from my perspective, is leave the room, because if you're embedded in your fear and you need to control the situation, it's not going to end up, in a pretty sight. And that way you can come to it at a later date when you're more calm to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But in the moment, we can't talk to our children when they're in a hyperreactive state. We can't talk to our spouses when they're in a hyperreactive state. And we can't be spoken to when we're in a hyperreactive state. So take a break. Come back to it in a calm space.
I love that. I think for me, the in the moment thing was the big thing for me, because in the moment I could feel my mama bear claws come out. And that was really hard. And sometimes it's hard to walk away, because I feel like if I walk away, I'm leaving my child in a space where, for me, I think they're being hurt in some way. And that's when I could really see the animal instinct within me come alive in those situations. So we created a safe word that we could say between us as co-parents, and that safe word would mean that, okay, whatever the other person was doing, we'd all just take 5. Just take 5, recognize this is not an emergency, the house is not on fire. Yeah, we can take 5 and come back to it. Even if it meant that the child was doing something that we needed to address, we could all take 5. And that safe word really helped me, because I struggled with the in the moment sort of holding the peace. And I'll be honest, before I got to that space where I could hold the peace, I made it worse. Because now I was coming in with all of my anxiety and now all of my fear. And instead of just a dynamic between parent and child that I was observing, now I've added my fuel to the fire, and it's just a big mess. So that in the moment sort of support is really something to get right.
I love how you found a word, a cue. And many parents that I work with, we talk about that. What can you do in the moment? For some, a word doesn't work because they're not listening, but a hand signal works, or,
Yes.
a snap of the finger works. So I think it's really very specific for you and your partner
Yes.
to talk about what would work
works.
for you
Yes.
to signal each other
Yeah.
when one sees or both see that a break is needed.
Yeah.
Because we all need a break. And, like you said, putting fuel on the fire by
Does
bringing all of our anxiety in about what the other person is doing, or them enhancing their conversation with our child, trying to stop whatever's going on. Neither one are going to get anywhere in that modality.
And it makes it worse for the child. It really
For
does.
sure.
It makes it worse, because now the child is in the middle watching mommy and daddy argue over how daddy was talking to mommy or how mommy was talking to daddy, and it just doesn't help anyone at all. So I'm going to wrap up. Again, we're all about action, Sue. So I'm going to just wrap up some of the things that we've talked about to help Trisha. And the first thing that I really loved was to make time to talk about it openly and honestly. Bring the fear out. Make space to understand each other with real empathy and validate how each other feels, and find a way to work out how you're going to come back to staying connected. Stay really focused on the goals that you have from a parenting perspective, and work backwards. What do we need to do to build that and shape that character and help our child develop into that type of person? And really, what do we do in the moment? How do we create safety in the moment for both of us that works for each of us in the moment? Whether it's a word or a signal to say, okay, I'm going to take a break, or I need a break now. Is there anything else you'd like to add for Trish?
I think I'm all about gentleness with parenting. So I have to say, again, be gentle and compassionate with yourself. I can't say that enough. And take good care of yourself. Self-care is important as we try to work through these types of dynamics and exchanges in respectful ways with one another. We need to have our own cups full by taking good care of ourselves.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sue, and for helping Trisha with her amazing question.
It has been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And remember, you can find out more about Sue's work at DeCaroParentCoaching.com. Dive deeply. Trust me, you will be amazed at the shift in mindset you will have from Sue's work. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We're all about sharing and supporting this village. So if you found value in this episode, be sure to share it with your family and friends. And remember, this is a weekly show. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you'll be notified of our next episode. As we always say in the village, you're just one connection away. With love and gratitude, empower us. Until next time.